think we need to bring back the browsing. Bring back the browsing. Welcome to you, my name's Dale and this is Dale's Addiction. Today's video is about the luxury experience. Do you believe it's dead? Well, I did an Instagram poll and a lot of you contributed to that Instagram poll, and I've also been talking to sales associates, current and former sales associates, where I've asked some of the questions that have been raised by your responses to the poll. So let's get to the poll. The question I asked was, do you believe that the luxury boutique experience is dead? 19% of people said yes. What experience? 16% of people said no, I love shopping in the boutique, it's special. And 65% of people said yes and no, I find it hit and miss, so really inconsistent. So the reason that I decided to explore this topic before I get into the main reasons why people say the experience is dead and then the responses from the sales associates, which I'm really excited to share with you, is a couple of things. One, I always talk about the fact that the luxury experience is something that is really important to me. I don't like buying pre-loved or vintage unless I get a full set, a really lovely experience, and that the piece itself and the receipt of the piece and the shopping experience for the piece feels luxurious. I really struggle with something just turning up in a brown box, thrown in a bag, in its dust bag, and that's it. I think that is why consignment stores like Rod, the Luxe Theory, like the Purse Affair, like Fashion File, that's why they're so successful, because they give you that sense of luxury in the shopping experience. It's not just the piece, for me anyway. Now, I recently watched Michelle from Dial M Luxury's video around the Chanel price increases, and she made a couple of remarks that I took them on board, saying that people think that they're better if they buy from the boutique, or that there's a perception that people think that they are doing it better or right, or they're more wealthy or something if they're buying from the boutique. And I kind of took exception to that, even though I'm assuming it wasn't aimed at me. And I thought, is that what it sounds like for people when I say why I want a boutique experience? That to me it's worth the extra $300 if I've got to choose between saving $300 for something that's not from the boutique or shopping from the boutique. And I gotta hope it's not, but if it is, that's not what I'm saying at all. It's what I want, it's what I find important. And based on the response to this poll, the huge response to this poll, I think so many other people find it really important too. And are quite, what would you call it, saddened about the inconsistency with which they experience that in the boutique. And there were a number of reasons that I've kind of summarized through all of the comments, because the next question that I asked was, if you think it's dead, what makes it like just not luxurious anymore? And there are quite a few themes that came up over and over again. So I'm going to address those themes, what I think about them, and then I'm going to come back and talk to you about what the sales associates that I talked to said about these things. So one of the main reasons was that people just simply weren't close to a luxury boutique, and so they shop online. If they were close to a luxury boutique, they found that the experience wasn't as luxurious because of the fishbowl kind of dynamic of the boutiques these days. There's nowhere nice and quiet just to sit down and look at a piece and enjoy the sanctity, I suppose, of a private appointment. You're still, trying to make a decision in the absolute crazy of a boutique, and now that we're post-pandemic, the numbers inside boutiques have increased and it's pandemonium. It's not luxurious anymore. People talked about the different experiences that they receive with different sales associates. Now, I think I'm putting this video out on Sunday, so on Friday I put out a video saying that my top 2 tips for luxury boutique etiquette were: 1, introduce yourself early on, do a reconnaissance mission for what you're looking for, and then make an appointment with that person on your second visit so that they know that you're coming to shop, and therefore you will get the time, you will get all of the lovely luxury add-ons because the two of you have leveled with each other, you know where you're at. I think that if you're just dropping into store, you know, it's different if you're traveling, but if you're just dropping into store and you're not giving your sales associate the heads up, I think it's one of those things with luxury that it's a different way of shopping. Sure, you can just drop in, that you do end up matched with somebody who potentially, you know, doesn't know you, you don't connect, and you maybe feel a bit awkward about shopping with them. The next big thing was about feeling rushed. This came up over and over and over again. And it's interesting in terms of when I get to the responses from the sales associates about what their reflections on people feeling rushed are. So people are getting a sense, I suppose, that the more money they spend, the more considered that their purchase needs to be, and that makes sense. To feel rushed, to get that you know, cliche line, oh, this is the last one we have left in store, this is the last one left in the state, in the country, in the world. Those sorts of pressures, particularly when you don't buy a lot of luxury, are not helpful. And so many people felt that in the boutique there was this sense of, hurry up, we've got to move on to the next person. Which one would you like? Rather than, you know, what are you thinking? Helping the person understand a little bit more about the piece, the history of the piece, the design, vision, anything, you know, to kind of romance them. And one of my good friends, Nadia, actually explained it to me like this. She said, the reason that you go to a fine dining restaurant instead of McDonald's is the process. You know, you're seated at the table, you are given hospitality, there's water, there's little touches that just aren't normal. There's a real sense of the luxury of time in explaining the menu and particular dishes or specialties within that restaurant. And that's what you expect in fine dining. You don't get that at McDonald's because it's all, you know, in picture format and you're familiar enough with the menu, and it's about convenience and efficiency. She said it feels in some luxury boutiques like a McDonald's experience as opposed to a fine dining experience. I don't think that I have ever felt rushed. In fact, most of the time, and I've talked to Connor about this from The Closet, I'll link his channel below, I actually find that I've got to make time to do my luxury shopping. So if I'm going to Fendi, if I'm going to Louis Vuitton, I won't just drop in, and I am very considered about when I make my appointments because I know it's going to be a long engagement. There's the rapport building, there's the little dance that you do, there's the looking around. It takes a while, and so for me, usually I just have to be in the mood to do that, and I have to have the time to do it. I hate going, I need to go, let me go. So yeah, I don't get that sense of being rushed. I'm the rushing one. One thing that I wanted to add with this, that will come up in the shares with the sales associates, is that the difference between luxury shopping in Australia and some parts of Australia versus the rest of the world, obviously our market is a lot smaller. I mean, Australia's market for Fendi, I think, is about 7% of its world market. So It gives you an idea around the volume of customers and therefore the different experience that we might get here compared to other places in the world where there is virtual queues and trying to make an appointment is really difficult. So I totally get that, but we'll touch on that a bit later. This was a big one, again addressed by the essays I spoke to, which we'll get to later on. You'll get sick of hearing me say that, is about feeling judged when entering the boutique, whether it's when you're in the queue, whether it's when you're waiting to be matched with a sales associate for the first time, feeling judged and feeling that the service that you receive is based on what bag you're carrying, whether you're wearing makeup, what outfit you're wearing. And I think this is a really tricky one, and I have to say, in my own experience, I felt uneasy going to a store that had security detail on the door, not really knowing the etiquette around how it works. At the beginning, I absolutely did, but I don't feel like I've ever been judged pre or post YouTube. Like, people say, oh, that's different, you know, you're on YouTube now. I don't think that's the case, and I've quite openly said, you know, my former sales associate at Louis Vuitton was the store manager, and she would say, you know, are you interested in moving into exotics? And we have an event that's going to be at a house, and, you know, they take you away. And I'm like, I said, I can't spend $50,000 on a handbag right now. I can't do that. But thank you so much for considering me for such a prestigious event, you know. And I don't feel like that lessened my relationship with the brand. In fact, I feel like that is better because you both know where you stand. I think when we say people or environments make us feel a certain way, the opportunity is for us to look at what is kind of triggering that for ourselves, because no one can make us feel anything. We are taking on board things that we're picking up on and processing it in a certain way, and nobody should feel like that when they're off to do something that's really, really exciting. This was a big one, and this one is one that I can absolutely identify with, that the opportunity to just browse now seems to be lost. The opportunity to wander in, and acknowledging that if there's a line, that's a part of the process, but to just wander in and wander around without someone tailing you, to just see what's new, just to have the luxury of being unaccompanied in a luxury boutique and browsing and discovering things, and then the stock being there for you to actually purchase them. I've talked about this a few times in different videos over the years, where I miss shopping like that. I miss that sense of discovery. I miss just wandering in and saying, oh, what's new, and not having to follow what's going down the runway and when the pre-orders open and having deposits on things. And yes, I have created that reality for myself, but what I'm getting a sense of through the survey responses is very much that people don't feel like that's a part of a luxury shopping experience anymore. And that's a real shame, because I think that's where most of my joyous discoveries have come from. My Purple Rain sequin baguette came from doing just that, and I still remember that feeling. So I think we need to bring back the browsing. Bring back the browsing! A couple more topics that popped up. One was around the lack of hospitality, and I know that people talk about it in different videos, and it kind of makes me cringe a little bit in terms of, did I get offered a drink? Was I offered water or sparkling water? Was it in a bottle? Was it in a glass? Did I get offered champagne or a juice? Some people got offered champagne and they were sitting right next to me, and I wasn't offered anything. What's the go with that? And I have asked the essays, so we're going to find out. But I think this sense of hospitality is one that I know personally. You get better hospitality with an appointment, and that's just the fact of it. And okay, spoiler alert, one of these sales associates that I spoke to confirmed this, that there's a hospitality budget for most of these luxury boutiques, and there's kind of a return on investment. So yes, you would always offer hospitality, but particularly with appointments, that's when your hospitality tends to change up a notch, because it's not just a casual browse. There's actually going to be some return on the investment. And I have heard this myself in Louis Vuitton. I went to pick up my Capucine's bag and I was enjoying a glass of champagne. People sat opposite me and they were having a bag boxed up, and their water arrived, and they said, "Oh, well, could we have champagne too?" And the sales associate actually said, "Well, normally we only offer champagne for clients who've made appointments." And that was news to me as well, but I don't know if that's consistent across all boutiques, but certainly I heard that with my own ears, so that is not hearsay. So it again goes to this whole make an appointment thing. Two more things that popped up, which is why I spoke to the SAs, is that people have a real concern about sales associates getting paid enough, and they think that this is directly contributing to their interest in the brand and products and giving good service, also their product history and knowledge, and their general sense of care to create a luxury experience. So quite a lot of people said, "I think the luxury experience is dead because sales associates aren't getting paid enough." Well, I found out what some sales associates are getting paid, and I'm going to share that with you a bit later on. And then finally, the product availability, and that going into a boutique usually means that you've got display stock only, or products are being ordered for you. And the bad thing about this, my experience and a couple of friends of mine, when those products are ordered for you, they come from other stores, particularly say for Louis Vuitton, and I know for Fendi as well. Now, when they come from other stores, they've probably been floor stock, they've probably been handled, and they're just happy to get them off their floor. And they tend to arrive at the new store and they look exactly like the product that was there. So they'll have similar flaws and scratches and signs of wear and just grottiness. So then you end up ordering online, because the online boutiques or the e-com boutiques are usually a totally different entity to all the stores, and they have their own stock. And a lot of people said, "Well, I know that to be the case, I'll just go to the store and try it on, and then I'll order it online because at least I know I'm going to get a brand new fresh piece most of the time." So they were the kind of bulk reasons as to why people just feel like the luxury experience is dead. I didn't ask those who don't believe it's dead why they don't, because I could talk till the cows come home about that. What I'm trying to do with these videos is, where I have a blind spot, where there's something that I don't quite understand or I don't experience, I want to find out from you guys what that might be. So I spoke to two sales associates, one recently finished and one is a current sales associate, and I asked them about some questions that came up through this poll. And can I say, I could have kept going on and on and on and on. It was super juicy. When I talked, let's call this one Ted. When I talked to Ted, Ted said, from a sales associate's experience, there's quite a lot of diversity in clients and their expectations, and obviously they are also consumers and have friends that are consumers as well, and so there's a different perspective of how this luxury boutique experience works. This was the start of our conversation, which was customers who buy one bag a year want a VIP experience when they visit once a fortnight to just browse. Now, it's very hard to build a relationship with a sales associate if you don't actually buy anything. I think that this is absolutely true, and there are a lot of people I know that spend a lot of time browsing and take a lot of time trying things on, and then they might buy online. I've certainly spent some time at Fendi and then I've bought online because I've saved quite a lot of money. It wasn't my intention, but that's what happened. And I have immediately told my sales associate, but I've also got quite a good buying history, I guess, to support my relationship going forward. But I can absolutely understand how that can be, it's too long a dance before you buy something. And like it or not, if you're going to decide how you dedicate your time and resources, it's going to be based on who's buying. When Ted was at a certain house, there was a budget for hospitality depending on how much the store made. In shopping centres, there are shameless Karens who'll just come in and pretend they want to try something and ask for sparkling water and leave. And I think there is always going to be the group that kind of, spoils the soup for others. So it's important to kind of understand that. I then went on and asked, okay, so that's interesting, there's a budget. What is the policy with regard to hospitality and a nice experience at the store? The policy in every company is to always offer refreshments for clients in store. Hospitality is not a reward for buying something. Whether SAs or even the store manager follow that, though, is another story. Some clients refuse the refreshment but then ask for it later when they buy. For top tier clients, obviously there's more time allocated and there's more opportunity to arrange things like an afternoon tea, some macarons, cake and coffee and those sorts of things. Spending is recorded in your profile, and then as a client advisor you can kind of plan for your appointments and know whether on what level of hospitality to offer. I said, what do you think about people thinking that the luxury experience is tainted by the fact that sales associates aren't paid very well? Ted said, I don't think it has anything to do with the pay. A lot of sales associates are working in the luxury boutiques whilst they study, and some people obviously working there because they absolutely love their job, or that's the job that they're doing for the moment. And like any occupation, some people just don't have a passion for it, and some do. And I think that as much as you hire for passion and purpose, a lot of these luxury boutiques also hire for language skills. And it's like saying that all teachers have a passion for education. They don't. It's like saying all nurses have a passion for caring. They don't. It's an assumption that we make, but it's not necessarily a true assumption. How much do sales associates get paid? Well, 2 years ago, when Ted left, he was getting paid $58,000 a year. So that's Australian dollars. Plus a monthly commission, which would range from $800 to $4,000 per month. Plus an annual bonus as well. So depending on your annual sales, you could do quite well. Obviously, the harder you work, the more you sell, the more commission you make, the more cash that you have. So, he said, well, is that good or bad? Like, I don't know. And I don't work in retail currently, so I can't say whether that's good or bad, but I would suggest that's pretty reasonable. Now, on the pay front, Ted also shared that there are some sales associates who've been working in some of these places for quite a long time. Think about, high-end jewellery and the like. And so they have a lower base salary and a higher commission percentage, and that's because they tend to have all of the top tier clients anyway. And so there are only so many top tier clients per boutique. So if you're a new starter as a sales associate, the likelihood of you picking up a top tier client is going to be slim because they already have relationships with more senior sales associates. So that makes sense too. I asked about judgment and behavior from clients, and Ted said, did you find most customers were either shy or confident or rude? And he said, demanding yes, but rude no. I feel like more rude clients are in the cheaper stores. You can definitely tell who has money and who pretends to, and that's not from the way that they dress. So once again, when people feel like they're being judged, you've got to put your game face on when you go into these places, and it's not to prove a point to anyone else but yourself that you're worthy, that you're a worthy client and customer, and that you deserve to be there and you deserve to enjoy your shopping experience as much as the next person. One great point that Ted made was about clients feeling rushed and saying, I guess I can see this from the client's perspective, that as sales associates, we see the stock and the product over and over and over again. We know it inside out and back to front. And we, I guess, assume that the client doesn't need a lot of time to look at it because we know it so well. Whereas for them, it might be the first time. Whereas for us, it's like the 50th time we've presented a pochette Matisse, for example, to a client. So I thought that was a nice reflection to kind of say, yeah, there's a possibility that people might feel rushed, and that's probably because for us it's just another day. And you might find that, my husband's just had knee surgery, and he's found, that in the hospital environment that it's just another day, for everyone else. But for him, he's having his knee operated on. It's not just another day. And I think that's something that's really important to remember whenever we're in those situations. Now, if we want to know, there's an argument around, well, if the prices are going up in stores, then the sales associates should be getting paid more. I asked, what is the budget for you as a sales associate? They had, and Ted had, when he left, $200,000 in sales to make every month. Yeah, so around $1.5 million a year for a full-time sales associate in sales. So that gives you some kind of indication around the motivations of sales associates, not just how they spend their time and who they provide hospitality to, but also what they are presenting you with when you don't really have anything specific in mind. It is sales, yes, and you can always level with them and say, listen, here's my budget, here's what I'm thinking, I'm not ready for that yet. But ultimately, when you know what the motivators are, it makes it much easier to communicate more openly. And several times I brought up the judgment and what you're wearing or what your budget is, and several times Ted has said it's got nothing to do with how you are served. Definitely not from his perspective. Now, also in terms of feeling rushed, I guess like any profession, there are different levels of passion and time. And one of the essays that I was speaking to said that, it's great when people say, look, I'd really just like the time to browse unattended, and then I'll call out when I need something. And when people have the time to shop the way that they want to, and they openly communicate in a really polite and respectful way, those relationships are the ones that really have good grounding. And in that situation, when that sales associate actually responded in kind to that client, the client ended up buying quite a great investment piece and continues to be a customer. So I think it just goes to show that it is a two-way relationship. Even though it's customer service, there's got to be a dialogue, there's got to be a relationship, and you have to make an effort to do that. Otherwise, we are going to kill the luxury experience for ourselves. It's two ways. So look, lots of interesting information came through. Thank you to everybody who contributed to it. I think it's such an important topic. It's something that's really important to this bag addiction that I have, and I know for many people it makes it, absolutely special. So if we want it to be special, we've got to do our part as well. And I hope that some of these tips have put some of these responses and bits of information have put into perspective why you may feel the way that you do, and potentially might give you some cues and strategies on how to build better relationships with your luxury sales associates. So thanks so much for watching. Please add any commentary that you would like to in the comment section down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already, and subscribe. I'd love to see you back here for more. Until then, ciao for now.